the 5 different ways that you can invest in self-storage. Okay. All right. So, and, you know, and the thing is that the way that the way that these, you know, whichever path that you choose, okay, is not, there's nothing wrong with it. It's all the one that you choose, or the one that actually chooses you. A lot of time the path just chooses you, right? Because you start marketing for like your facilities and do all the marketing, and then you know, the one that comes along is kind of like, you know, the one that comes along is like, you can't control what it is. Now, if you don't like it, you can always wholesale it. All right. So number 1, wholesale storage facilities. Right? So number 1, let's do your 5 paths. Okay. Number 1 is you can wholesale storage facilities. So you can wholesale storage facilities, and you basically wholesaling. So I'm not going to get into what wholesaling is because we're just talking about the paths, but essentially it's a property, right? It's a seller. And then it's you, right? And then it's a buyer, right? And you are the middle person between the buyer and the seller, all right? So it's kind of like a broker, right? But you have to put the property under contract, right? And let's just say you find a storage facility. This is what happened to me. I found a storage facility for, I think it was $165,000. Okay. And then I put it under contract, right? I put a contract on it. And then I found a buyer to buy it for $215,000. Right. And guess how much money is that I got in the middle? Right. So I got like minus like all the like the realtor fee, you know, there's no realtor fees, but all the like closing costs. I got like, I think it was like 55 grand or something. It was like, or 59 grand or something. Let's just say 60K. I made $60,000 by wholesaling that facility. All right. And these numbers are not impossible. This is like typical numbers. I mean, you can make anywhere. Now, what you have to do with wholesaling is you have to know how to analyze commercial deals. All right. So this is not a residential property. This is commercial property. Okay. So that means that you have to learn things, and I'm not getting into this today. You need to learn what cap rate is, ROI, cash on cash return, yield. You have to learn like what the DCSR is, your debt service ratio. You have to learn like all these terms, and you have to learn how to analyze and calculate those. All right. Wholesaling is one of the 5 ways that you can invest in self-storage. And if you know what you're doing and you know how to put a buyer's package together and you know how to run numbers properly, right? Because not many people do, then you can make very good money wholesaling, right? It's not like wholesaling a residential property, you make like 5 or 10 grand or 15 grand, right? I mean, you're starting at 10 or 15 grand and going up. And most of the time it's quite more than that. Okay. So that's number 1, wholesaling storage facility. Number 1 is wholesaling self-storage. And you have to learn how to run commercial deal analysis, okay, in order to do this. And you have to learn how to put a buyer's package together, okay, and find buyers. Essentially, is what I'm saying. And finding buyers, you have to find the seller, and you have to find the buyer, right? That's what wholesaling is. Any questions? Okay. Right. Number 2 is my favorite, absolute favorite way to invest in self-storage. Anybody guess? What's my favorite way? Anybody have any ideas? Nothing? Driving, yes. Okay, Christian, you're right. Well, actually, that's not a path. That's the marketing value add, right? So it's mismanaged facilities. Okay, mismanaged facilities. All right. So a mismanaged facility is a facility that is 50% or less full, right? The owner is just pocketing the money. He pockets the money. The money goes into the pocket, right? He doesn't use QuickBooks. He doesn't have a P&L and a balance sheet. He doesn't want to give his tax returns, right? The price, the price of units is too low versus the competition. So unit price. So for instance, like I was looking at a storage facility this summer where like it was 100% full, but he was charging like half of what everybody else in the whole area was charging, right? So, and that was his philosophy. The owner was like, I just want to be 100% full. You know, he didn't really care about like how much he was a kid. And actually, I mean, I was getting that thing for, well, literally 50 cents on the dollar. And the reason why is because he was charging half of what he should have been charging. And a lot of these owners, you know, especially when they've had these things for 10 or 20 or 30 years, all they really care about is it's 100% full and I'm getting enough money, you know, to live off every single month or something. And they don't run it like a business. They don't have a P&L. They don't have a balance sheet, right? They don't want to give you the tax returns. And the reason why they don't want to give you tax returns is because they have the properties in their own names, right? They don't even have a business. It's just like, you know, some land that they got, you know, and they had like 30 acres of land and then they just put a storage facility on it. And it's the same acreage that their house is on. This happens all the time, okay? So, so mismanaged facilities, you're going to find they're going to be like, you know, 60% or less full, right? So I'm looking at one right now. It's like, they're telling me it's like 42% full, okay? Which probably means like 30 to 35% full. And then probably even more of those, a couple of those are even just not even paying, you know, saying full is different than paying, right? Full is different than paying. My first facility, I mean, I talked to Butch, right? And I was like, it's 100% full. And I said, well, how much are you making? And he said, $2,500 a month. And it's like, you know, it's a 125 unit facility. I mean, he should be making like $8 grand a month. So it's 100. So full is different than, what was I thinking? Full is different than somebody fill in the blank. That's a good question. For full is different than, full is different than income, like how much income that you're making, right? So so make sure that when you ask your sellers and talk to your sellers, that you figure out what the income is, right? Versus like how full they are, you know? So anyways, mismanaged properties is the next thing. Now with managed properties, okay, you cannot go to a bank and get a loan on these. There's no bank, there's no, first of all, you're never gonna wanna go anyways to like Bank of America and get a loan on a storage facility. And this is not a good bank, right? You want to go to like a regional bank if you could, right? But you can't go to like Bank of the Ozarks or like, you know, what is it, Community Bank or whatever, you know, because you have to be able to take your P&L and your balance sheet of that property and the tax returns of like for the last 2 to 3 years, some want 2, some want 3. You have to be able to take those to a bank and they want to see the income, right? Because commercial properties are based, I mean, the loan is based on the income, how risky it is, right? Is it 90% full, 85, 80% full? And that loan is based on the income, okay? So you cannot go to a bank to get this. So what do you have to do instead? You have to borrow either private money or hard money. Okay, so private money or hard money for these. Private or hard money lenders. So with mismanaged facilities, the thing is that you buy these like 50 cents on the dollar. 50 cents on the dollar or less. I have a property that I spent $250,000 for, and it's worth probably like $800,000 right now. And it's not even at 100% and like at the competitors' prices that are around, right? It's worth like over $1 million. And so that's why I love these. I love these. These are gold mines if you can find them, right? But the thing is that you have to come out of pocket every single month, right? So you're not gonna make enough money to pay the bills to run the facility, okay? So you're gonna have to come out of pocket. So the question that you need to be asking yourself is, do I have enough money to do that, right? And like, you know, storage facility, like for us, the one that I just talked about, we bought for 250. It's like, you know, we had to come out of pocket probably a couple $1,000s every single month for like 1 year, okay? And in order to get it up and running, and we didn't have any profit. It took us 1.5 years just to get a profit. Missy was a doll. It was horrible, this thing. So you need to, with mismanaged facilities, unfortunately, you have to borrow money from a hard money lender, and a hard money lender is gonna want, you know, depending on your experience, 20 to 30% down, right? Or you can find a private lender. Does anybody know when I talk about private lenders, what private lenders are? And then have they ever used private lenders? Okay, so I am 100% privately funded, right? I'm 100% privately, because you know why? It's because I just buy mismanaged facilities. So I have to be privately funded. And then also, like, I could go and use a hard money lender, but you know, once you learn how to raise private money, right? You know, then what's it called? The oysters, what is it? Not the oysters yours? I don't know what to say, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you just have, like, the opportunities are endless, right? So if you want to get involved in mismanaged facilities, you have to learn how to raise money, okay? Is what I'm saying. And I'm talking about raise money from like private lenders, because you always have to raise, like, the world is your oyster. Thank you, Mark. The world is your oyster. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. All right. So, and anyway, so with mismanaged facilities, you have to learn your business is not, you're not in the like self-storage business, right? You're in like the fundraising business. And actually, one of my mentors 10 years ago told me that. He was like, Stacy, he's like, what are you? And I was like, I'm a real estate investor. He's like, no, you're not. And I was like, yes, what am I? I was like, yeah, not. What am I? He's like, well, what are you? Like, what do you do? And I was like, residential redevelopment. I'm a flipper, I'm a rehabber. He's like, no, you are a fundraiser. If you're going to make it in this business, in the real estate investing world, in any type of investing world within real estate, you have to learn how to raise money. Okay, number 3. This is also very good. Cash flowing properties. Cash flowing. Cash flowing properties. Okay. So cash flowing properties are going to be like 75% full, right? Or higher, right? Or higher. Okay. Cash flowing properties, 75% or higher. What else do they do? They have a P&L and a balance sheet, right? The person that's running this business is actually running it like a business, right? So this is one of those facilities that I don't buy, right? Because I like mismanaged facilities. A P&L and a balance sheet. What else? And the tax returns, right? And it's the 80-20 rule for banks. Everybody knows the 80-20 rule, right? 80% and 20%. And this is the same thing. I think in life, everything is 80-20, right? So with the cash flowing properties, essentially the owner is running the property like a viable business. Like basically we buy mismanaged facilities and we make them into cash flowing properties. All right. And we're not getting into deal analysis here, but essentially like you're going to buy these at the highest, at the lowest cap rate, right? Because they're not risky businesses, right? So the cap rate, the lower the cap rate, the riskier the business. The higher the cap rate, the lower the cap rate, the less riskier the business, right? The lower the cap rate, the less riskier the business, supposedly. The higher the cap rate, the riskier the business, okay? So, and we'll get into cap rate later too, but essentially, these are going to be like, these are less risky. They're making money. You can take the P&L and the balance sheet and you can go to the bank and be like, well, bammo. And they're going to be like, yeah, 4 cents, 25 years, 4% interest, 25 years. You can get fantastic rates right now on cash flowing properties. The banks are lending. My students are getting like 3 and 4% interest rates, right? And so they're getting they're getting awesome returns. Like I have, now the thing is though, is that you have to put 20% down, at least. Now I'm not talking about SBA loans, right? But like go to a bank. Like if you go to like a regional bank, and I highly recommend if you find a cash flowing property, you just go to the regional bank and you get a loan there. And on, in terms are going to be 20% down on average, and then like 4 to 5% interest rate, depending on your experience, with like a balloon, maybe 5 to 10 years, and it's amortized over 25 years. Okay. So this is your down payment, is this. All right. And so now you can always get an SBA loan on this. SBA loves self-storage. And you can do like maybe as little, they're not doing 10% right now. It's like 15%, but as little, maybe, maybe when the market gets better, they'll do, but right now you see like in the market that down payments are up higher, right? The amount of the down payment is higher right now. So SBA is kind of around 15%. And then this is, and then like banks are like 20 to 25%, or even, or sometimes 30%, depending on your experience, right? And a hard money lender is going to be around 20 to 30% as well too, to put down. Okay. But some out there will do less, hard money lenders. The thing with hard money lenders that I like, is that they're just so flexible, and they're just like, and they can close in a couple of weeks. Whereas this is going to take you like 60 days. I mean, it's taking forever to close deals. With new construction, okay, first of all, you got to find the perfect property. All right. So that's the question. Where is the perfect place? The perfect property. Okay. You got to find the land, and you've got to procure the land. So guess what? That's going to cost money, right? So you have to have money to buy land, unless you own the land already or whatever, right? But you're going to have to need the money to buy. You have to get the money to buy the land. And like to borrow money on land is actually, it's difficult. There's not a lot of banks out there that will loan to you on land. Now, just land, like if you go out and just buy the land. Now, there are banks that will, like you just go land, like, land bank or whatever, or something, or land loans or something. You can just Google it, and I'm sure you get like a whole bunch of stuff. But land is kind of hard by itself to get loans on. Okay. Now, but what you can do is you can get like an all-inclusive loan from a bank. And I highly recommend going to a regional bank. Don't go to a Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, because they're going to be like, I don't want to do that. In fact, they're not really doing any loans right now. They're protecting their assets. All right. So the regional banks and the local banks are perfect for new construction. And in fact, they are dying to give out loans for new construction. All right. So regional banks and hard money lenders. hard money lenders, right? For new construction, right? But so first you've got to procure that land, right? And actually, you know what? Take that back. First step before you get the land is even more important. First step, number one. This is number two, right? First step is you need to go to the county to find out whether or not you can build on that, right? What is the rules and regulations of the county? So I should have said that first, right? You definitely have to go to the county or the city or whatever it is. So, so go there and talk to them first and say, okay, I'd like to build a storage facility, on this piece of property. Is it possible? What is it zoned as? And is it zoned commercial, industrial, agricultural? And then what does it need to be zoned at? If it's residential, and if you don't understand the zoning process, essentially the zoning process is it's kind of like a lanyard system. It's like levels, right? So if it's zoned like R2 and you want to get it to like commercial, it's kind of like you have to do these like this stepping process. Has anybody ever rezoned anything before? Yeah. So. And it's like it's not like, oh, like I just want to go and just get this rezoned. I mean, you have to go through this kind of process, and it takes forever. All right. Minimum a couple of months. With COVID, who knows? All right. And it also costs a lot of money. So when you're looking for land for your new construction, then you want to check the zoning. Right, you want to check the zoning, and make sure, and then you also want to check with the county to see what what it should be zoned for. So if storage facilities are really considered warehouses, all right? And it's actually run, the analysis for a storage facility is ran as a warehouse. You don't run these as like, it's not doors, it's square footage, right? And so so you want to make sure, and it might be light industrial, warehouse, commercial, so whatever the county has it, like, every county is completely different, and there's nothing across the board on any of the counties. Okay, so the first step is going to the county and asking them for permission to be able to build the storage facility, right? And then secondly, I find out what the zoning is, and if it's not zoned for whatever it's supposed to be zoned, what is the process for getting it zoned? Okay. So that's kind of the new construction, the start of the new construction phase. So first, county zoning. And I mean, so some people get feasibility studies and some people don't. They start at like $5,000. I mean, they're kind of expensive, right? And a feasibility study is basically a study that they do to like see like what the traffic's like. Is it going to be a good area for you to build storage facilities, right? That's basically what it's saying. It's like, is this spot right here a good spot for you to build storage? Okay. And then you can take it with a grain of salt, because like a lot of times you hear people get feasibility studies, like if it's like near a city, right? If it's in like, in like a metro Atlanta area or metro Orlando or whatever it is. But like when you're in the middle of the country, right? And I buy like facilities in the middle of the country, like to get a feasibility study, I mean, that it's just going to be a different way of running that facility, right? So whether or not you get that, if you want to get a loan though, like from a bank, most of the time they require a feasibility study, okay? And then another thing is like environmental studies, all right? Like, soil testing, like you always got to get soil testing, right? Can the soil hold the foundation? Is there any minerals on the, is there oil or whatever? I don't know what they're going to find, but essentially that's the testing, right? And those are also, like Steven said, they are not cheap. They're not cheap, right? So the point is that this costs money, this costs money, this costs money, this costs money. And then you still got to build the storage facility, right? So building the storage facility, the foundation, the electrical, you know, the gravel, and then the framing, right? And that also, that's a lot of money, right? Okay, to build it out, you have to come up with the money for that. And then guess what? I know you can't see this here, let me see. There it goes. And then guess what? You're starting from ground zero. And you got to get that thing filled, right? You got to get those tenants in there to start paying all this money that you spent, right? And so that's all comes down to the marketing, which of course on every single one, like there's a lot of marketing. There's always marketing. When you're running a business, you're doing marketing, right? So, so you just have to, like, you know, with new construction, and a lot of people do new construction, and you can get a loan from a bank for this, right? If you go out and find the perfect property, get the feasibility study, get the environmental study, you have to come out of pocket for that. So get all these studies, go to the zoning, make sure everything's all right. Everything's a go. You found a great piece of property, and then you just take that information to a bank, a regional bank right there, and then you get a loan. And you can get like the purchase, just get the construction loan, like purchase for the land, and then construction loan for the building of the facility. But there's also another thing about this, this takes a long time. This is like a year at least, all right, depending on how big you want. But I mean, it takes kind of, it's like, it's a project, right? Whereas like, you know, with like cash flowing property, like you buy that thing and immediately the next day you're starting to make money. Now, that's why I like cash flowing or mismanaged, right? Because, and I've done new construction houses, and believe me, it's a lot of work to do new construction, anything, right? So for me personally, my personal opinion is like, I want to invest in self-storage because it creates a lifestyle that I want, all right? And the lifestyle is that I want to be lazy. That's my lifestyle. I want to hang out with my family and I want to travel, okay? So I just kind of pick and choose the paths that fit my preference and what my goals and dreams are. And right now, all I want to do is hang out with my family and travel. So like this doesn't fit into that. Now, maybe later I might be like, I'm just tired of traveling and I just want to, like, you know, do a project or something, and then I might do this. But for now, that doesn't fit into, say, yeah, so develop, right? Or you can say like conversions. Anybody interested in developing or conversions? All right, here in the group. And so this right here, like, this is like when you're driving, like when you're driving down the road and you're in a town or in a city or something like this, and you look over and there's like this like whole row of commercial buildings that are completely just empty, like never filled. And you're thinking to yourself, that would be the perfect place to put a storage facility. Right now, that is a conversion, right? And conversions, you don't have to buy the land, right? You just buy the retail building is what you're buying. So you're buying a building. So you need the money to buy that building. And then after you buy the building, then you have to, like, you know, you have to build it out inside. And there's all these different ways of, my head's getting cut off, but there's all these different ways of doing conversions and developing. I know a lot of lenders out there, like SBA loans, love conversions, love developing. SBA loans love these bigger chunks, right? So if you can come up with 20%, right, and raise the money for 20%, then you could get an SBA loan for that 80%, okay? And if you can't come up with the 20%, find somebody that has the 20% and partner with them and be like, yo, I'll manage everything, I'll do everything, and you just bring that 20%, let's partner and split it 50-50, okay? And so this is something that you will see more and more and more of in the future, especially like now downtown, of all the areas, like in all like downtown, you know, Nashville or Orlando or Charlotte or, you know, all these like downtown areas, you know, what's in like, just like Cube Smarts and public storages and what do they call them? U-Hauls and stuff. I mean, they're all just, they took over. Right. So like to go into those towns is kind of hard. Right. So you want to be looking at like secondary towns or tertiary. Like you want towns like, 100,000 people or something like this, or 80,000 people. And population is huge in the self-storage industry. Okay. So you've got to really know, like, I'm like a population. I'm always like, what's the population of this town? And I'm Googling, and you really, once you start learning self-storage, you understand that population is huge in like, in running your numbers for deal analysis on self-storage. Okay. So find these like secondary towns where they're like smaller towns that have like nice downtown areas, and they're just like, and there needs to be, you can convert those retail businesses or those old factories or something like this. Now, and then developing also includes, right? Developing includes like syndication and going out and just buying a huge piece of land and doing like huge, big storage facilities. Okay. But like, I mean, we're trying to get into the passive, we want to build passive wealth, right? So when you do like these huge, big buildings, I mean, essentially what happens is that you're just creating like a business. It's not passive, right? But let's put this down. So conversions is like, you want to find like retail centers that are empty. There's a lot of those everywhere, right? And you want to learn to raise capital because you're going to need it. Now, you don't need a lot of capital, right? You can raise a couple of $1 million. It's not that, once you learn how to raise capital, raising a couple $1 million is not that difficult, okay? And what else? About developing. So you got to find the retail space. You've got to raise capital. You can also learn to syndicate. Right. And honestly, I have a couple of students in the mastermind. They're like, no, I want to start out with like a $5 million deal or a $3 million deal. That's their focus, is like their first deal is going to be, and they literally have no idea about self-storage. And like the one person that I'm thinking about right now, like literally like this, like in the past couple of months, has just been going around and raising money from like private lenders and going and like, looking and finding facilities and learning how to run deal analysis on these bigger types of facilities. So totally doable. And like I said, hard money lenders also will lend on these. They love these, and SBA. So it's not impossible if you've never done self-storage investing before, because I've seen it within my mastermind. Okay. And all you have to learn to do is raise money, and you have to just have the confidence to be like, no, my first deal is going to be a huge deal, because some people, that's just what they want. Right. And so there are the 5 different paths. Okay, the 5 different paths. Did I miss anything on developing? Is anybody interested in developing self-storage or doing conversions for self-storage? Okay. Any questions? Yes, Kmart. Masha says Kmart. Go for it. Yeah, Kmart's good. Yeah. And it could be like, look, I have no money right now, and like, I know I could raise, 25 grand. So I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out and find this storage facility. And we started out with like small, and we got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, like, guess what? I have a fund, and I'm raising money to do like bigger deals. Okay. So that's just how the path is, but what I'm saying is that don't be afraid of, like, if you're just saying, no, like, I want to go big, don't be afraid to go big as well too. Because especially right now, it's easy to raise the money for self-storage investing. It is easy to do that, right? Okay, good. What questions do you have about self-storage investing? So now you have the 5. Paths. Tell me of all 5 paths: wholesaling, mismanaged facilities, cash flowing facilities, new construction, and developing. Which of those 5 paths speaks to you? Which one do you think you're interested in?